Michael, as someone sitting in Washington, D.C., what are you making of the Indian government's pushback? There's clearly some kind of an orchestrated effort where attempts are being made to get these international celebrities, left-leaning politicians to jump in the protests that are happening on the farmers' laws in India, and efforts are being made to ratchet up international opinion. And now the government's pushing back. So how is this playing, in your view, in Washington, D.C. and elsewhere internationally? Michael Kugleman.
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me. First off, it's never a good look to refer to peaceful protesters as parasites, no matter how you slice it. And that certainly will not play out well abroad. But broader point to your question, I think there are two phases of this story when looking at international reactions. The first phase is the actual passing of the farm laws and the protest that ensued against them. And the second phase is the actual response of the government, which has sometimes been heavy-handed, and also its claim of a global conspiracy behind the protests. In terms of the first phase, the farm laws and then the protests that came from that, I don't think there's much to talk about. Certainly there's been foreign media coverage. You had the celebrities that spoke out in support of the farmers, but that was it. And you'll recall that a few days ago, the State Department here effectively endorsed the new farm laws when I asked a question about them. But it's the second phase that I think has attracted so much more attention overseas. Much more press coverage, much more commentary on social media, including by famous personalities, and him speaking specifically about how the Indian government has responded to these protests. Much of this commentary overseas has been quite critical. And, to be very candid, not many people abroad have been lining up to express their solidarity in support of this idea of a global conspiracy behind the protests. That really has not gone down very well. There have not been many takers. And I think that the broad theme, like a very common theme in the media, in the reaction abroad to what's been going on, is that India's government is extraordinarily sensitive to outside commentary, and especially criticism of its internal affairs. And a lot of people are asking, well, why should a major power, why should a consequential country like India be so bothered about all of this outside commentary, especially as it's bound to happen. India is a major player on the world stage. People are going to react to what it does, and they will react critically sometimes. They'll react in complementary ways as well, but they'll react critically too.
Okay. So you've said multiple things. I want Vijay Chauthaiwala start responding one by one. Why is India so sensitive of criticism? It's a major international player. Some of your actions will undoubtedly generate international commentary. Why not just ignore it? Why not push back? Michael Kugleman also makes the point that many are buying the idea of a grand international conspiracy against the Indian government and the farm laws. So let's get Vijay Chauthaiwala for his first response to what Michael Kugleman just said.
Thank you, Rahul, for inviting me here. As my good friend Michael has said, there is a conspiracy which I don't agree partly with Michael, because the way the toolkit has been released and it is played in concert with other players on social media, including the environmentalist to the pop singer to the niece of vice president, it clearly shows that there is a concerted effort. Means Michael Kugleman also doesn't agree with many things with me or with BJP, but I won't call him as a part of the conspiracy. But there is a definite design over doing it. There is also news that the pop singer Rihanna was paid $2.5 million for that one tweet. Today's Super Bowl, there was an ad which is totally misrepresenting the facts, and it must have cost also millions of dollars. So from where this money is coming? Our people, those who are supporting farm laws and Indian government, especially in the parts of Canada and Australia, are being threatened. One of them have received 70 calls on his phone saying that his number, they know where he is staying, etc., and they have been threatened. So you cannot overlook all these things when we talk about the conspiracy. Of course, there is some genuine criticism, there is some genuine concerns about farm laws, and internationally also, and we appreciate those concerns both nationally and internationally. But the kind of propaganda that has
So-
been
so
created
can I-
by a section of people is something which is bothering, and therefore we are calling it as a conspiracy.